Have you been to every doctor and every practitioner? Have you tried every diet? Gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, wheat-free, carnivore, paleo, vegan? How about all the detoxes? Liver, gut, lymphatic? Have you spent thousands of dollars on protocols, supplements, and procedures? Have you listened to all of the experts and read all the books too? And you're still sick. Well, today we're going to get to the bottom of why you are still sick. Why are you so sick after you've done everything that there was out there to do and you're still sick? Why is your body not getting well? And how can you get on the right track to wellness and wholeness? That's the most important question. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Marcy Langlois, and I'm the host of Living Beyond Limits. And I am really excited to be here with you today because this is one of my favorite topics, because it's so near and dear to me, because I have had a lifelong struggle with chronic illness. And if I can shorten someone's path today by a day, a week, a month, a year, or a decade, that is absolutely my intention. We're living in an epidemic with chronic illness being normalized as something that just happens to people. It's not. The CDC, or the Center for Disease Control, has estimated that 6 in 10 Americans is suffering with some sort of chronic disease. That's over half the population. And the University of Oxford conducted a population-based study to show that 1 in 10 people are dealing with some sort of autoimmune disease. Illness is rampant, and the numbers are staggering. People go years and years being told that their symptoms are all in their head, or sometimes a doctor will diagnose them just to put a label on it. If someone is diagnosed with an autoimmune condition, there often isn't an effective, reliable treatment. After years of suffering with the symptoms and the lack of intervention, most people feel helpless, hopeless, and isolated. My life had become simply about existing. I had chronic fatigue, 5 chronic viruses, a systemic bacterial infection that all progressed into histamine intolerance and mast cell activation issues. I woke up feeling like I had the flu every day. It was awful. This eventually progressed into a multi-system issue with severe neurological issues going on. I want to provide a content warning at this time. If you are sensitive to trauma, you are going to want to fast forward about 15 seconds and rejoin me. Eventually, I did become suicidal because the idea of continuing to wake up every single day without being able to live my life was more than I could stand. I mean, this had gone on for years, and I was so exhausted. I had searched high and low. I tried everything, every treatment, diet, protocol, supplement, and nothing worked. Some supplements might have some temporary relief associated with them, but always eventually the symptoms would return. Western medicine stopped working for me when I was in my 20s. My life felt daunting and dismal. I wasn't alone though. Unfortunately, there were so many people that shared my exact same story. They were in the same spot I was. They were either as bad as when they started, or things were progressively getting worse for them. They tried Western medicine, Eastern medicine, natural medicine, holistic medicine, and everything in between. Some people do feel better, and some people actually get relief. Some people fully heal. But more often than not, they ended up where they started or progressively getting worse. And that was my story. Things never got better for me. They only continued to get worse. Eventually, I went over the cliff. Things became dire for me. I ended up bedridden for 40 days, and my life as I had known it was gone. So what I want to talk about today is the complexity of chronic illness. If you come from the Western mind of medicine, then the idea is that the patient shows up presenting symptoms. You prescribe a pill of some sort, and that medication alleviates the symptom and returns the body back to wholeness. In some cases, this is absolutely true, and it does happen. But when you're looking at chronic illness, that typically isn't true. There doesn't seem to be a silver bullet with chronic illness. It's multi-layered, and it's incredibly difficult. Often symptoms don't seem related. You may have heart palpitations today, neurological symptoms tomorrow, balance issues the following day. As the symptoms mount, then the degree of difficulty to diagnose increases. It's difficult to put you in a category because none of these things seem like they fit in one category. There's now the autoimmune category to catch all the things that don't seem to fit in that one specific lane. Personally, I think that we need to start asking better questions, such as, isn't the body interconnected? We have to start to really understand that, first of all, we are made of energy. The basis of who we are is energy. I went to the research, though, to substantiate this claim, and I found this incredible paper written by Amit Sharma and Adawish Kumar Murari at the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, India College of Engineering and Technology. They conducted a study by the name of Aggregate Frequencies of Body Organs. The study, though, was to see how feelings affect the frequency of each organ of the body. They state that every chakra, every organ, every bone, every tissue, every cell has its own resonant frequency, its own sound. However, when an organ is out of time or out of tune with the rest, then the entire body is affected. This harmony leads to a state of disease and disintegration. Our organs range from 60 to 90 megahertz. Once the body reaches a consistent frequency of 58 megahertz, disease starts. If you assume and operate then from the context that the body is indeed made of energy, and you think in terms of energy, then when we're going through our life having all of these experiences, I mean, every single day we have hundreds, sometimes even thousands of experiences throughout the day, because every second something's happening, right? Some of the experiences that we have, of course, are at higher vibrations, and some of them are at lower vibrations. If the body is indeed made of energy, then the frequency and what your experiences are actually matter to the overall health of our being. If you lower something's frequency, then you slow the energy movement down, and the energy becomes slower and denser. And as that happens, then motion and flow become harder. Whereas if you raise the frequency, then it becomes lighter and more active and flowing. Now, as we go back to the body with all of those thoughts in mind, that if we go through the day and we have these low vibration experiences throughout the day, then the energy in our body that day is becoming denser and slower, which moves us into the lower frequency, which precipitates disease and illnesses. And if we have high vibration experiences throughout our day, then our energy is becoming lighter and more open and flowing, which promotes wellness and wholeness. In order to be in optimal health, you want your frequency as high as possible, right? Think about all the advice that you hear constantly about how to optimize your health. Drink a lot of water so that it can move things throughout the body. You should be physically active so that we can move stuff throughout the body. Keep the energy flowing in various different capacities. It's the overall message. The whole idea is to keep the organism of the body in movement or the state of motion. That's how it functions at its maximum potential. Energy is flowing, moving. Ideally, we would love to have every day be filled with high vibrations, but of course, that's not how life works. Every day of your life up until this moment has had days filled with both high and low vibrations. Every one of those experiences are imprinted in the body system, in the body's energy system. Once you have more low vibration experiences or catastrophic events that would be low vibrations, or things that were disturbing to you, like a great loss, or experiences that were traumatizing to you, eventually those do bring your frequency down in the body. Any experience that moves the body into fight or flight automatically shifts the body out of balance. And as soon as the body is out of balance, the frequencies drop. Now, unless you're attuned and aware that you need to combat this and actually work on raising your frequency, then the frequency in your body just stays low. Dr. Joe Dispenza in his book, Becoming Supernatural, says, when this imbalance is maintained long-term, chances are we are headed for disease, because long-term stress downregulates the healthy expression of genes. Of course, what we think about these things, these experiences, also continue to inform the frequency and what our body is going to do. For example, if I have this experience today that suddenly I lose my job, well, obviously my frequency is going to drop. But after that happens, within a few days or maybe a week, I start to think through what actually happened, and I recognize, maybe this thing is a blessing. Like, maybe they really did me a favor. When I really think through things, I don't think they really truly respected my input or opinion. I don't know that they actually were paying me what I was worth. Maybe this is all a blessing. As soon as I start to think like that, then my frequency raises. And also the opposite is true. If you continue to say, oh my God, why did they fire me? And what am I going to do? And I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. And you're completely stressed out. Then you're moving the body into fight or flight. And we all know what happens there. The vibration goes down. And if you keep doing this over and over again, mentally rehashing what happened, then you are continuously telling your body every time you rehash it mentally to keep the frequency lower. And you are keeping yourself stuck in disease and illness. If we take our biggest challenges in life and we consider them through the lens of what I just laid out above, then when you continue to dwell on something that happened 10, 20, 30, or 40 years ago, and about how it shouldn't have been this way or it shouldn't have been that way, and it was wrong, and all of this should have been a different way, then the body picks up on that negative frequency constantly, and you are keeping yourself stuck. So if you see things the way I do, and you're basing your information on the study that we provided, then it just makes sense to me that this is how disease comes to be, is these lower frequencies get stuck in the body over time. We don't realize that we need to do anything to combat the low frequencies that have been stuck in our body. Our frequency drops below 58 megahertz and disease and illness set in. For me, this has been my exact experience. This is exactly what I went through. I had no idea that this was the problem. I tried every modality, every diet, every supplement, every doctor, therapist, practitioner. To no avail, I tried everything and nothing worked. Every once in a while, a supplement would give me relief for a little bit, but eventually the symptoms would always return. Nothing worked until I changed myself. The way that I saw my life, the way that I spoke to myself, I started assessing the thoughts that I was thinking, and I implemented new ones. The big question is, how do you turn this ship around? How do you move out of a state of illness and disease and into wholeness? Examining your thinking every single day. Ask yourself, what am I thinking? No, not the obvious, like I got to go to the grocery store, I got to pick Susie up from softball. Not that. Obviously, we know you're thinking that. But what's under that, right? What is the background thought that you have maybe been thinking all of your life or the last 10 years or whatever it might be? What are those thoughts? For me, my thought was my body was born sick and compromised, so it's obvious that it's going to be sickly and unwell. Also, I'm not safe, and that put my body into a state of hypervigilance and fight or flight, which we all know is a low state of vibration. Once I realized this, I started to notice when I was thinking these thoughts. As soon as I noticed I was thinking these thoughts, that I was born compromised and that I was going to be sick and unwell and that this is just the way it was going to be, I would immediately say, cancel. I would cancel that thought out and I would replace it with a true thought, such as, I'm healthy and strong. I did this over and over and over again. Eventually, though, my body did start believing me and I started getting well. But what if you weren't born like me, right? What if your body wasn't compromised at birth? No problem. Here's how it relates to trauma. So with my car accident, I woke up every day and my first thought was, I've killed 3 people. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that that thought is not uplifting. There's nowhere productive to go with that thought. And so I had to recognize that I was thinking that thought. I had to cancel the thought and I had to replace it with thoughts that were different, such as, I deserve to move forward in my life. This, my friends, is the foundational step to turn the ship around. This is where everything begins. Nothing can change until we think differently. You have to master this part of the work because this is so important. This is the only step of the process that I'm going to talk to you about this week. Next week, I am going to teach you how to raise your vibration so that you can implement both and have a significant momentum shift. Do the hard work this week. Really dig in. Notice what you're thinking. Cancel the thought. Replace it with something that is true and helpful. Rinse and repeat. Eventually, you are going to stop thinking this thought. It just takes practice and commitment. Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a wonderful reminder for me too. I hope that you will discover all the thoughts that have been keeping you stuck and start moving in the opposite direction. If you felt like this information was helpful, please share it with a friend. Until next time, be aiming to live beyond limits.